starting this and failed it really. What about the introduction I did before, skills of tapping in. Should be playing this I was talking about. Yeah, the mental health is bad, and the state that it's in now with how doctors address it and in pharmacies, it's not good. Um, I suspect there's obviously profit involved, but there's a lot of pseudoscience as well. Even based on my anecdotal experience, I've never been treated properly for any sort of issue, and medication's never sort of been right, ever. And I've always felt like I've been betrayed to an extent because of, again, mistreatment and just trying to push pharmaceutical shit on me, which doesn't help because of the side effects. But not only that, they're also not getting to the core of the problem. And this could be something as simple as like how you treat someone. And what I'm sort of getting to here, anyways, part of the problem is not only how people just refuse to understand, it's how people just end up being a complete sort of danger to one another, I guess. Just because of what they think is the right way to do something, and it's not always the case. And I was going to use the example of a sort of fetish, like a sexual fetish. Because there are harmful behaviours in that, and the way we think about mental health and even something like that, it's not always the right way to think about it, or even giving the right solution. And that's definitely dangerous. And we need to address it like it is, like mental health is a spectrum. That's subjectively true in my opinion. And it's not complicated to even address that. First, you get obviously the sort of numbers, like you rate it from 1 to 5. You rate the different aspects of, say, depression or anxiety, amount, and you see where that goes from there. And like the worrying thing about this is nobody seems to give a shit about doing something else. It's always medication. It feels so off. It's just it's such a bad thing. It needs to be taken seriously. It's it's not as complicated as it's made out to be, and we assign names to this, but it's not really going to be effective in treating it. But as far as I know, anyway, and this could be false, obviously. But the way I see it, it's like you treat it based on the result. You test it. You get numbers from 1 to 5, let's say, and you treat those issues as they are. Like, you find the medication that works for that, the worst issues anyway, and go from there. But even then, it sort of brings into question: do we need? I don't know what the size of chat message. What there's. It brings up the question of like, why is it only medication? This is why I feel I've been betrayed. It just feels off all the time. I just always feel like there's something more that can be done, but it's not being suggested. And because that's not being done, essentially, it's like it's ruining our quality of life. Like, it's such a significant thing. And people don't seem to recognise it as such. And when I've been looking for like natural remedies for depression, like nothing comes up. It's like the same thing over and over again, copy and pasted. It's like they're purposely obscuring it and purposely giving bad advice so they can sell the products. You know, see like CBD oil, for example, being pushed as a treatment, when the reality is that can be something entirely dangerous or just outright not helpful. And that's really where tons of these problems come from. But it's just so dumb. Like exercise and reducing stress, like, I don't think that's going to help in the long run. In my honest opinion, it hasn't helped me for sure. Because you want something that's longer lasting and supposedly treated over a long time, rather than this sort of instant sort of situation with like antidepressants, for example, or anti-anxiety. And what you need is something that's more gradual, and that's what I know I need at the moment. And I wish there was something like that, because it is really bad for my quality of life at the moment. The fact that I'm constantly being pushed to take medication, it's like, I don't want to. It feels bad, it makes me worse than I was, as I've found out the hard way. And it doesn't even treat the issue, let alone diagnose it. Which, by the way, should be the first fucking thing you do. If you're not diagnosing it, you're perpetuating it. Simple as that. The NHS are fucking psychos, like, it's obvious. I've never liked them, but this really puts it into perspective about how they really feel. It's just bad. Yeah, like, I just feel very betrayed as well out of all this. I just wish there was a better solution. Because it has to be. There's no way that people have gone so many years without essentially treatment. It just seems too far out to me as a concept. But how do people address it though? That's my question here. How do you address depression without the use of medication? Because I think people again are like too reliant on it, and it becomes the norm in that sense. And again, they're on like, I'm sure I wouldn't say it, but there are uses for medication, certainly. Saying they should go away, but we do need to investigate the legitimacy of them and whether there's actually corporate interests, because those things are dangerous, like the corporate interest thing anyway. But whether they're effective or not, because these things cause side effects, by the way, is up to scrutiny, it's up to question. There's no doubt about it. And again, like, the danger with not doing that is it will harm people. It will harm the quality of lives of many people. And I just feel there's more that can be done again, like, I keep stressing this. And that's really the point here. Even though this is very anecdotal and not really rooted in anything, I just feel very betrayed overall, and my only piece of advice, based on what I've tried so far myself, just to find something that works for you. Like, did I go into like the fetish example? So let's say you have like a weird fetish, which people no doubt shame you on anyway, just regardless of what it is. Plus, I'm a piss man, but that's besides the point. People with like baby fetishes and stuff, and schoolgirl fetishes, like, these are real things that develop and can be problematic. People shame others on it, and really the antidote to that is educating people. It's like, you can't help yourself if you're attracted to this specific thing. Like, it's impossible to get rid of that. I don't really know of any case where that's actually been treated or cured. But if anyone knows, I'm open to hearing it, because it's important to an extent. if there's a way I can stop being like pansexual, for example, then I should prefer it this way. And why it's just that. But like someone who has a weirder sort of sexual fetish or even a paraphilia, if there's a way to treat it, then why the fuck aren't we? And why aren't we spreading knowledge and understanding about this? There's literally a place for making this a reality, making this something that can be treated. And part of it requires us to be more open-minded and understanding. And the same with like a fetish, like it probably can be from trauma, but I don't know. It can also be instinctual or something. And yeah, like, there's definitely not out of the question. And nature has a lot to do with sort of our physical and mental health to an extent. Which again is why I bring into question like why isn't there more that can be done? And it seems like there clearly is. I just feel so lost in that sense. Um, like fetishes, like there's no shame in having one. It's just when you breach like a border of concern or line or whatever, that it can become a problem. If it's out of someone's comfort zone, you need to bring that up obviously with like your partner or buddy, I don't know who it is. You need to find like a middle ground where either you both agree to do one thing that the other likes, or you take it halfway and leave it at that. For each other, like there's different ways to address it, and not saying one's going to be the right way. It can't be right all the time. But that's how you can address that sort of thing. The other thing is sort of not being ashamed of it, and in my experience as well, being ashamed of the very thing that you could be even like harassed by is quite detrimental to your mental health. And it's led me to this path of trying to understand more about it, more about sexual health, which also school didn't touch on. That's what I'm talking about, really. But also, like, even most adults and sources out there, media, don't even really touch on it. It's important to discuss because it's such a big thing. You never know, like, for all you fucking know, your dad could have a sexual fetish or something that's very bizarre. And it's not out of the realm of possibility. And to shame someone for that, even in a family, it's just like, why? That's gonna alienate them as well, and also potentially lead to like darker shit. It gets so out of hand that they end up acting on it just out of necessity or just randomly. And it's just dangerous because of that. But to use like another example of something that's not necessarily wrong, but just like someone's born with, I was going to use smooth brain, but it's not really a similar topic. Smooth brain people exist, just to briefly say. There's no shame in it, and definitely people can't help it. Because they're born that way. Smooth brains are a real thing. Although most people, I think, don't survive it, if I'm not mistaken, but there's also those who just, in general, just have a lower quality of life because of it. I should really go without saying that it's just wrong to shame someone for that. And sort of the sexual term, like people who have very much obvious issues, I wouldn't say an issue anymore. It doesn't exist. So there's a guy with a tiny penis. For some reason people make a deal out of that, but in reality it's nothing. Like, it's not a deal breaker, and the people who emphasise it as a deal breaker are essentially the ones who are wrong, the ones who are going to cause more harm. And the people who have these kind of things like, I don't know, tiny penis or don't know if gaping vagina is a real thing. Um, Even just like arse problems as well. Let's not forget the other holes. I have 5 of them, but we can't ignore it. And instead of making people feel like they're lonely, in that sense, we should be accepting and welcoming of that. And we're not necessarily asking for, oh, introduce yourself and how big is your penis? It's like, okay, what's bothering you? And you can say anything. And you can like share a bit of info about yourself, for example. And they share that obviously they have a tiny dick, and that's not really a big deal. You just say like, oh, well that's fine, I accept you as you are. That's not a problem. It's simple as that. And ironically, that's one of the treatments for any sort of mental health issue. Just reaching the understanding of why people are this way. And like, obviously, tiny penis again. It's something you're born with. It's not something you choose. I doubt people would choose it if they had the choice. I think that's pretty much impossible. But people obsess over like massive ones, and it's damaging as well in that sense. You need to be like sort of balancing it out in that sense, instead of emphasising that sort of thing. It made people feel better about themselves, and I can also guarantee that people don't like that they've got giant ones as well. And it's sad really when you think about it. And the fact that this has even become a thing is just crazy to me. When it really shouldn't be. Because it's not even a big deal, like it doesn't matter. Again, like, it doesn't even affect most of the people who are fucking obsessed over it. Same with smooth brand people, it's like, what the hell are you thinking? What does it matter to you? It means nothing to your life, and it means something to others, sure. You should be using it as an insult. Something like autistic was used as an insult. It's just pathetic when I think about it. I just wish people's attitudes were just better around these things, even mental health. I've seen a thing like just calling the anti-mental health sort of movement or mental health conspiracy, where people just outright deny the existence of mental health, even accidentally. I see this in just online forums in general. People will sort of become complete arseholes to you, become a bully, just because of an issue you have that you can't control. It could be like not being knowledgeable, so it could be again like a fetish or even like a tiny dick issue. And it's just pathetic. Again, people doing this are obviously weak and hiding something themselves. And obviously I try to ignore them. Really, some of my best advice for that. Just remember, like, if you're not doing the same thing, you're also doing much better than that. That's pretty much given. Yeah, I'm just trying to think what else I was going to say. I think I've touched on like just how you address helping others. That's the thing as well. Sometimes the treatment for an issue isn't as clear in colours, like, oh, take this medication. It could literally be something like therapy, or going out in nature, or just helping the community. There's different ways to do it, and I know from personal experience again, helping others can be quite therapeutic in its own way. And that's partly why I keep doing it, other than the fact I just want to be helping people just for the sake of it. Can actually help with mental health, can make you feel positive and feel like you're actually doing something with your life. And it's even better if you can understand the person and give relevant advice, because that's something that's missing as well in this sort of discussion. Mental health. You just don't always get the relevant advice or even help. And that's where a lot of it fails. No fucking doubt about that. Yeah, and so it's sort of like part of an experimentation. My last piece of advice, I guess. I think you know you best, and I think in that case, you need to find like something that helps. It sounds complicated, but you can actually find things. Um, trying to think of like a personal example, other than the kindness thing. Um, have like a depression playlist, and that's something I put on when I'm depressed, and it can help. Even putting it on and seeing a result after the fact, when I'm still depressed, watching it can help in that sense, and it's different for different people. When I go through severe autistic burnout, for example, I just play this game, although it does cause it sometimes. It's still better than the opposite, which is like doing nothing and obviously like getting worked up about shit. It can be massively beneficial to do that sort of thing. And people just seem to forget that for some reason. And being in touch with nature. It also sort of leads to like something else I want to say as well about myself. You know, as like charitable as I can be at the moment, I'm definitely focusing on helping myself a bit more at the moment. There are places where I would change just to accommodate someone. You know, I found out that the also ex-housemate I had from my last place was actually not doing shit on purpose, basically to make me suffer. If there's an actual diagnosis for that thing, or a side effect of medication, I'll let everything go. As simple as that. And let go of the death threats or delete all the cases of bullying essentially that I have, or most of it anyway. I'll keep some just because you can never be too sure. And I'll just forgive and forget really. And also possibly try to bend the relationship in that sense. Because yeah, like again, these are things that you can't necessarily control. But the other thing is like sort of about my pride in that sense. Not 100% sure what to word this. I used to suffer with the average of being a virgin, and now I have the opposite issue. It's like I have the euphoria of being a virgin. A lot of things made me realise that it's like being single, don't have responsibilities about keeping a relationship. I don't even have to worry about trying to be good in bed for that matter. But there is a case where I'd give that up, and that would be to save someone's life. Or just to stop them from suffering, essentially. I'll be that sort of sacrificial lamb in that sense. That's probably the wrong way to go about it, because, yeah. So I think lamb sexual behaviour is actually quite dark, so better not go into that further. It's an odd situation, but I'd definitely give up that sort of pride just to ensure that someone is safe and welcome. Even at the risk of my own sort of pride and obviously my life in some cases. It's not about sort of appearing heroic or anything, it's about being a decent person and understanding how you can be better and what you can do better. You need to care about people and the things they do, say. Be careful with them as well, and also in like a dangerous cases like prevention. You know, I wouldn't call the police on a suicidal person, for example, but the only case I would is if there's like no response. That's it. But I'd try to talk to the person and make sure I can help them in some way. rather than say go to the doctor, get therapy. All this regurgitated bullshit that again hasn't helped me personally. So I've experienced in that sense more about helping people than solving the problem than I am about treating it. Because you definitely can't treat everyone. Like that's for sure. It's sad that you get people who want to die because of things that they can't control. It can be like genetic depression, which I have, but there's also cases where people are suffering as they're dying. It's like, well, no shit, they probably want to end their life. It's like the whole of our existence. You know, why should they have to stay through it to suffer? It just makes no sense. So again, understanding is important, it's key. And I think it could also stop a lot of the bigotry that goes around nowadays. Yeah, mental health is complicated and I have doubts about it, about how it's treated. I don't doubt it exists. It's just the treatments that I'm always sceptical about and I've never been too sure. I think I've talked about everything there. Trying to think. Is that? Yeah, I think it is. So thanks for listening. See everyone another time.